Awesome. Hello, good people of the internet. This is the first of many live streams that we want to have on a Better Way platform. Rocco Jarman and I want to be discussing a lot of things. We do not know exactly where this conversation will head, but it will be worth your time for sure anyway. Am I right, Rocco?
Absolutely. So I'm live streaming this on my YouTube channel, which has almost no following. So it's not something I've built, but you've renamed your channel from an Unlearning Playground to a
A
Better Way
better
with
way.
Chetan Narang, and you're live streaming it as well.
Yes, yes.
And what we want to do is make this regular so that people can come weekly and be part of the conversation, hit us with questions, because we really want to make this a community engagement. We don't just want to speak out into the ether. We want to engage with people.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I think that's the most important thing. So what we want to do is we'll probably remind each other as we go to keep uh, speaking to you, not to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is true, Rocco. So now, when we were talking offline, Rocco was mentioning that one of the things that are that's going on in his head right now is the fact that we need to really take back the internet. And that's not just a shitty slogan like "make the internet great again." It means something. It means something, right, Rocco? So I want to lead with that, Rocco. So tell us
Yeah.
more about why you think we need to take back the internet, and then we'll talk about the hows and the so what's and in
Yeah.
much more detail. Yeah.
Years ago, there was an idea that inspired me because I saw so many problems going wrong with the world. And I started listening to Sam Harris, and he had a saying that said, consciousness is the tide that raises all boats.
Mm.
In other words, he was suggesting that if we raise our consciousness, all of the things that we care about, all of the more granular problems and concerns, they all get addressed through that single project.
Mm.
Now, that is even too vague and too abstract,
Mm.
but what we can all relate to, because how do you raise your consciousness? There's so many arguments, even that
Yeah.
becomes an argument.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the one thing that we're all struggling with at the moment, whether it's the online dating culture and the Instagram glamour culture, that attention culture, the influencer culture, the political left versus right argument about everything,
Mm.
the the noise, the overwhelm, all of these things they resolve to a single root cause is that we are engaging in a on a platform in a way in a mode of engagement, in other words receiving everything that we receive,
Mm.
normalizing what it is that we're watching, being told what it is that we're watching,
Mm. Mm.
the way we comment, the way we respond, the way we engage, all of that is we are being told what normal is,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
and we are contributing to something that's actually maleficial. It's against the best human interests for us to raise our consciousness, to live happier, more connected lives, to pursue
Mm.
meaning, whether it's through personal development, through relationships, or through our
Mm.
work. And what's the common root cause underneath all of that? It's what we've normalized at the moment and what's being decided for us
Mm.
by actors, by tech companies, even sometimes by an algorithm
Mm. Mm. Mm.
that doesn't have the best human interests at heart. And so, for all the issues that you care about most, it seems like if we took back the internet, sharing the best and connecting the best amongst human beings is going to be better served by that project. So that to me seems like a really good, tangible place to start. And I think we can all tell
Mm.
that the internet is a broken playground
Yeah.
where the only people playing really are the ones that don't have the best human interests at heart. I don't know if you remember, I issued that um, picture recently. Can I share my screen?
I think so. Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Mm. Oh yes. Yes.
Yes. So this was a way of looking at what do we mean when we say take back the internet, right?
Mm. Mm.
And so let's just look at the current state, the reality of what we're dealing. So we have this dual pyramid, right? A one that's drawing us down and one that's raising us up.
Mm.
and we can say there's different kind of actors
mm, mm, mm,
that
mm,
are participating on the internet and shaping and defining what
mm,
what we should be doing. And what I've done is I've created different categories here,
mm.
and then next to each category I've like put their persona. So if I look
Ah,
at
nice.
a player or an agent, he says or she says, I just post whatever gets attention.
Mm,
I have nothing to contribute. And then somebody who's an opportunist or an influencer says, I
mm.
just want my slice. I play the game as it is, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
My hands are clean. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
my
you're right,
responsibility, you know?
correct.
Yeah. Mm, yeah.
And hunters and poachers, these are the people with funnels and things like that, right?
Ah, yeah.
Everyone is a lead. I sell tactics and funnels. I don't actually sell something. I sell you how to play this game more ruthlessly. That's what I care about.
Yeah.
And it's all quantity over quality. And then at the bottom, there's this word we got from Dungeons and Dragons, this fantasy role playing game. It's called a
Mm,
lich. He's
mm,
an undead, like animated skeleton spirit who's trying to co opt souls into his undead cause to make everybody undead also, so he can turn life into unlife, right?
oh,
And I thrive from the problem, is his user statement. Now,
mm,
at the top here, we've got all the goodies in
mm,
our
mm,
scenario.
mm,
The
mm,
fans
mm,
and supporters are people who are engaging,
mm, mm, mm.
but they're here to participate meaningfully. They're not
Yeah.
just doom scrolling, right? They
Yeah.
understand that they have a responsibility because the pyramid is shaped in a certain way where most of the people are at the base and the fewer of the people are at the point. So
Mm,
if we're playing a zero sum game, this
mm.
few people are the real winners here, and
Mm.
these people are the cattle, right? But
Oh.
if the leaders are
Mm.
leading and
Mm.
they are in the few, then they are leading this whole project upwards. And
Mm.
so
Mm.
the leaders are the ones that are showing up on the internet that are here deliberately to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Mm.
And they
Mm.
recognize and understand the problem. The
Mm. Mm.
generators are like you generate new, fresh, meaningful content. I want my
Mm.
work to matter, not just to be seen. Now you're
Mm.
playing in both of these spaces here,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
right? That's the
Yeah.
Unlearning Playground, now called A Better
A
Way.
better way. Yeah.
Curators are the kind of people they don't generate stuff by themselves, but they have pages that share things like Maria Popova, the
Mm.
marginalian. She probably
Yeah.
plays between these two. She wants her work to matter, but she
Mm.
spends most of her time promoting David White, Khalil Gibran, Rumi, Maya Angelou, right? She
Mm. Mm.
promotes ideas that she cares about and she engages with soul. And you
You
get
know,
people
Rocco,
that
I
have,
will. Mm.
yeah,
Sorry, I just wanted to comment that I think I started as a curator too. I used to put out quotes from books that I had read, which had a
yeah.
positive impact in my life. And yeah,
I mean, I still do that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
absolutely do that, right?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
But you can see that they're slightly different. So it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that we're just one or the other. It means we can show up as leaders, we can show up as
True. True.
generators. But a generator is not a content creator, even though what they're generating and creating is
Is
content.
content. Correct.
Because
Correct. Yeah.
here, this is about true craft and calling,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And this here is about just synthetic content.
That's such an important distinction, Rocco. You know,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that I always keep falling back to is that we have such poor examples on the internet right now about what content creators are.
yeah,
Is that whenever you see a new person creating some content, one of the immediate responses is, here's another content creator. He's just gonna put out another bullshit few videos and gonna make us listen to it, etc. And it's almost again like that boy who cried wolf, you know. If that's the only metaphor you hold in your head, it's you who loses too. I mean, of course, the
yeah,
guy who wanted to engage with soul, who wanted to put out things that matter to him, that guy loses out too. But it's also you who loses out, and it's such an important distinction: the synthetic
yeah.
content versus the real content. They're both content, of course, but that's such an
Yeah,
important
but one
distinction.
of our problems is we have an overwhelm of content.
Yeah.
So part of taking the internet back doesn't mean. So again, I'm inspired by the thoughts of Sam Harris on this. He used to
Hmm.
say things like, it's when science is failing us, it's not that we need no science. What we need is better
Better
science.
science. That's
When
absolutely true.
politics
Yeah.
is failing us, it's not that we need no politics.
Mm, mm,
We
mm.
need better politics. So in this
Yeah.
instance, it's our content strategy that's failing us. That doesn't mean we need no content. It
Yeah.
means what we need is better content,
Yeah. Yeah.
hence a better way, right?
Yeah.
So can I share that screen again?
Yes. Yes, please.
Because what it really comes down to, I believe, for me, and I hope
Mm,
for everyone else, is that soul gets built this way, plus, and soul
mm,
gets denigrated that way. What is
mm.
soul? Soul is the human thirst and the capacity that we have to connect, to belong, to find purpose, to feel vital, to how we make meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no meaning being made in this trajectory.
Mm, mm,
There's
mm.
meaning for a very few who are trying to manipulate the system, whereas these people are trying to bring meaning to more people.
Yeah.
That's the two opposite here. This is pro soul and no soul. This is
Yeah.
left brain, reductionist, me, capitalist, everyone for himself. And this doesn't mean that this is socialist. This means that this is human.
Yeah.
This is human here.
Yeah.
And this is to dehumanize
Yeah.
down in the bottom.
Mm,
And this
mm,
is who we are trying to speak to. We're trying to speak to these people here. Because the
mm,
followers and the magpies, just to follow someone's account today is meaningless.
mm.
You
True.
know, we picked that up from Jack Conte, the CEO
Yeah.
of Patreon.
Mm,
And his message is, I like his message. His message says the age of the follower is dead. To
yeah.
follow somebody is meaningless. You don't even see their content in your feed if you're
True.
following them.
Yeah.
You just see what the algorithm decides for you. You
Yeah.
actually have to become an active fan and an active supporter.
Mm,
You
mm,
have to
mm.
engage and
Yeah.
participate. You have to put skin in the game. You have to comment. You have to. So that's the how.
Mm, mm, mm.
But there's people like the magpies. A magpie in Australia is a black and white bird that looks like a crow, but they like to steal shiny things, whether it's a piece of a chip packet or a wrapper
Mm,
or keys or a piece of tin foil, anything that's shiny, right? And they
mm,
come down to find something shiny, but then something more shiny catches their eye and they go there. It's not
mm.
the quality that they're chasing, it's just the shininess,
Just the
right?
shine. Yeah.
And the algorithm wants you to operate like that
Yeah.
because it's these people in the middle that keep this whole internet alive, right?
Mm,
So
mm.
now there's other people that we're not including here. These are the people that engage, but they engage only to vent their bitterness and their anger and their frustration. They just
Mm.
comment mindlessly.
Yeah.
So this is not a complete picture. This is a little bit more distorted at what we're trying to differentiate between synthetic content and true craft and calling.
Yeah.
You know,
I
the
can see a
main
bias for action here, Rocco. A bias for action in the sense that you want this picture to inspire a certain action in everyone who looks at this. It's like the first thing maybe just see if you belong anywhere here. Where do you
where do you
belong?
find yourself? That's
Right.
it.
Right.
And so let's
That.
ask the audience who's with us if they ever
Mm,
are. Be critical with yourself.
yeah.
And like I said, there's only one category that I've missed out here, and that's the people that are engaging, but they're not here to participate meaningfully. They're here to slam somebody else's comment,
Yeah.
to troll, to
Mm,
denigrate, to
mm,
argue, to bicker, or to vent, to say,
mm.
if you see a post about someone you don't like, you don't even read the post, you just comment, oh, I think he's an idiot. He's only
Yeah.
here to do that. This person's a Nazi. You
Mm,
think you're contributing to a conversation, but all you're doing is you're contributing to the monkey chatter. Do you remember we
mm,
spoke about in Indonesia when you went to Bali?
mm,
I've been
mm,
there. And at one of the
mm, mm.
temples, they do a chechak fire dance,
Yes. Yes.
which is
I remember.
the Balinese people out of all of Indonesia are Hindus. They're not
Mm.
Muslims. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they reenact that story of the Ramayana of the final showdown
Yeah.
between
Ram
Hanuman,
and Ravan.
Lakshman, Rama, and Ravana and the
Ravan.
Rakshasas, and
Yeah.
the dancers and the singers that make up the performance,
Mm.
most of them are doing that chattering sound, yeah,
Yeah.
chuck chuck chuck
Yeah.
chuck 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 chuck
Yeah.
chuck 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 chuck,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the first time you listen to it, you go, "What is this noise?"
Hmm.
And then you realize that's the noise that we make as monkeys.
Hmm.
You know, there's a writer called Terry Pratchett, and
Hmm.
he said, human beings, we call ourselves Homo sapiens. And that means the thinking or the reasoning man or the wise man.
Hmm.
But he
Hmm.
said, we don't behave like this. That should be an aspirational title, Homo sapiens. How we actually behave is pan narrans, not Homo sapiens. And pan narrans means the storytelling ape.
Oh wow.
Yes,
Oh.
because we are not yet reasoning
Hmm.
humans. We are still storytelling apes, and our stories tell us everything that we think is meaningful, but we live inside these stories. Those are our logical fallacies, the matrices of what we call normal.
Hmm.
We subscribe to these stories that actually limit us, that don't invite us forward into our human evolution or the human
Hmm.
actualization.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that question again, you know, there's
Hmm.
one category that we haven't added on here, and that's
Yeah.
the people that are just here to be vitriolic, to have
Hmm.
catharsis, to
Hmm.
vent their bile out onto the internet. But aside from that, most people are represented here. And the
Yeah.
question is, who are you? Where do you find yourself?
True. True. That is a powerful question to sit with directly, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah.
And then perhaps
Because, yeah,
some people who are also sharing stuff on their social media accounts, on their in their communities on WhatsApp, perhaps maybe they can also just have a look what kind of people are they magnifying the voices of, you know.
amplifying, signal
And
boosting.
exactly, because that matters too. Like I know a few people to whom my uh, top of the line advice would be, instead of sharing, click on the three dots and just mark not interested, man, because this is not serving anyone, whatever is being shared by you.
Especially if you comment to say, "Oh, I hate your content." Algorithm
Hmm.
doesn't care. It goes, "Oh, engagement. Nice."
Exactly, exactly. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Even if you're sharing it in your story and saying, what a couple of fools, those fools are getting more engagement, more traction because of the fact that you just shared their reel,
Mm.
right?
It's like in America when there's a school shooting, they don't talk about the victims, they talk about the school shooters. So if
Mm.
you're a young person that wants to be famous, you're now
Oh,
incentivized to commit a school shooting
yeah,
because it
that's a
works.
good example. Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
it works.
Ah.
It's
Mm.
horrifying.
Hmm. 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 So that makes the case for taking back the internet, Rocco. And is there anything else you would want to add to when I ask you why do you think that is okay? Let me ask this. Why do you think that's the most important thing right now, or perhaps one of the most important things right now to take back the internet?
If you think of all the ways in which our sovereignty, our agency, our sense of wellness, the possibility that we
Hmm.
can pursue of our own wellness, our headspace, the way we are influenced,
Hmm.
what other way would there be?
Hmm.
Because we're all doing that form of engagement and connection. It is the connective glue that joins us at the moment. And
Hmm.
it's not inherently evil, it's been taken over by those actors at the bottom who
Hmm.
are not acting in humans' best interests or the
Hmm.
human best interest.
Hmm.
And where else should we begin if not that? I mean, I'm not saying it's the most important way, but it's the most relevant, salient way that I can think of
Yeah.
that everyone can relate to.
Yeah.
Which social media platform are you on at the moment that you think is good, net good
That's
for
another question
humanity?
to sit with. Yeah. 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 That's such
And
an
the
important
answer,
question to sit with.
they don't
Mm.
exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
All you
And
get is the best of a bad bunch, and even them,
yeah.
it's, you know, we're still not incentivizing a better game.
Yeah. This always reminds me, Rocco. This is something I shared with you a while back. I was meditating once about Osho and JK. I remembered them after a long time. And I was just
Yeah.
thinking, if Osho and JK were alive at the moment, of course, they would have a lot of important things to say. They would have important messages to share with people. But just consider how much of a friction would they encounter on social media to share something that's important, because it's the overwhelm
Imagine,
that we've talked.
imagine
Hmm.
your favorite thought leader, the one that
Yeah.
inspires you the most, the one that's taught you the most. So everybody pick in
Hmm.
your mind who your
Hmm.
favorite is, the
Yeah.
one that
Yeah.
really blows your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
imagine them arriving on the scene today, and you've never heard them, but you know from now, secretly in hindsight, that they would have changed your thinking in your life the most.
Yeah.
Imagine them arriving today and having to get through all of that noise to reach you today.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. That's exactly where I want to take this.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And you said that's important too, and
Hmm.
about something earlier. And what I wanted to suggest, that that's not important too, it's the most the most important. Let me just share
Hmm.
this screen one last time. This
Hmm.
is what I meant here. So if I click share,
Hmm.
it shouldn't be lost in on us, yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
that
Hmm.
the majority of people are here,
Hmm. Hmm.
which
Hmm.
means
Hmm.
who has
Hmm.
the most power and the most influence on the system? These people,
Oh.
the
Oh man, that's
majority
such.
of the people.
Oh,
All of
I
these
love
people
this.
doing the best work,
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
who are trying to lead, who are trying to raise the tent instead of trying to collapse it,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
are wholly dependent on how you show up. There's nothing more that I can do as a philosopher or a thought leader or a writer or a creator. There's nothing more than I can do that if I do any more, I start selling my soul to play the
Hmm.
game.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing more that I can do to heal this problem.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
The power sits with the people. The power sits with the people. And if you don't take back the internet, you are to the worst actors with the worst selfish incentives that want nothing good for humanity. They want bank balance, they want status, they want power, they want influence, they want money, and they want attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not important too, it's the most important thing, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I
I
love how
believe that, man.
you've just put the ball back into the people's court in some
Yes,
sense,
and
right?
why is politics such a screw up at the minute? Because we've forgotten that. Why have we
Hmm.
forgotten that? Because we have normalized the way that we're acting, and we've normalized the way that we're being treated, and therefore we're normalizing the way that we're treating other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. That covers for a lot of the whys, Rocco. That also, you know what? You've just hinted towards the how as well. How do we take back the internet? So you want to comment more on that too?
Yeah. Well, you know, if you had a cancer or some kind of sickness, right?
Hmm.
But part of your sickness was drinking poison.
Hmm.
Surely you have to recognize, like alcoholism, right? Or drug addiction.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Until you realize that your behavior is addictive and not good for your own wellness, if you don't make that connection and
Hmm.
connect to a sense of self leadership, if you
Hmm.
just say, oh, that's just the way that things are, there's just alcohol in the fridge, I'm just going to drink it, I didn't create the alcohol, I
Yeah.
open my fridge, it's there, everyone else is drinking.
Hmm.
You are not a leader of yourself. And that means you'll never actualize and you'll never find true fulfillment, because what you're saying is, I want the system, I want to be held like a child. I want to be held in a bubble
Hmm.
like we do for
Hmm.
children at school, that their wellness is completely dependent on the integrity of the bubble that's held around them.
Hmm.
But that
Hmm.
bubble is
Hmm.
broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's bad actors in that bubble that are bringing you into a different kind of bubble, that are trying to sap all of the life and beauty and vitality and meaning from you and from your life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you are not complicit in your own wellness. You're not responsible for yourself. That this message is not for you. You're a child, and you need to have a kind of drama or crisis in your life that forces you to maybe
To
make a
wake up.
different quality of choice. But if you are sick and tired, this is the community we want to be speaking to, hey, is
Hmm.
people who are
Hmm.
sick and
Hmm.
tired of that, and who are thinking, I cannot wait for someone else to come. I
Yeah.
cannot wait for someone else to make this perfect, or to go, I didn't do this. This is not me. No, fuck that. I actually want to do something here.
Yeah.
If you can connect with that,
Hmm.
and if you can realize that your choices matter,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
you now run into the argument of, but why should I make the better choice when everyone else is making the bad choice? Uh, that's a good argument, but I don't know. I can't make that the whole of my argument. Because
Mm.
leadership doesn't mean you do the right thing because it's convenient. Leadership means you do the right thing because it's necessary,
Yeah.
you know? So the first
And
thing I would say is, I mean, I'm going to throw
mm,
this back to you, Chetan, but the first thing I
mm,
would say is some the how is it's not about I can't tell you the how. You can become
mm.
interested in the how when you decide that you want to.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. I appreciate that,
Um,
man. That's it. Yeah.
that's
Bec-
sovereignty. How could a
mm,
cure be spoon fed?
yes, that's it.
Because
That's it.
that's not the cure.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've already done that, we've already played the game of self improvement where there's a guru telling people that these are the medicines you have to drink and you'll be all cured. We
You
know that.
know, and those
Hmm.
medicines are still true. But
Yes,
if you
yes.
really
Hmm.
want to heal someone, like with alcoholism or an addiction or something like that, they have to own the problem. They have to own the
Yeah,
problem. So
yeah.
ownership. So I believe when I work with a client or I work with
Hmm.
somebody who wants to be mentored by me, or I work with a corporate client even,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I teach them, the first thing I teach them is consent.
Hmm.
Consent means you don't have to write a complicated contract to determine whether you trust me or not. The question is actually whether you trust you or not. I'm going to give you the best advice that I can, and I'm going to give you frank advice, but whether it hurts your feelings or makes you uncomfortable or you don't trust, that's for you to figure out.
Hmm.
I will
Hmm.
always answer your questions. I will always try and explain myself, but I can't understand it for you. And I can't make whatever I'm telling you not trigger some negative concern or some neurotic concern of yours. That is your job. You have to sit and come with that level of self ownership and interest. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I carry no responsibility. It means you carry half
Hmm. Hmm.
of our
Yeah, yeah.
exchange.
True,
You've
true,
got
true.
to want to be here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not leading anybody like a guru. No one's taking refuge in these teachings.
Yeah.
These, I'm helping to open the village well so the water can be clear again. And we've all got to play our part. We can't be throwing things in there. You can't come with a poison cup in a clean water and tell me there's something wrong with the water.
Hmm. Hmm.
We have
Hmm.
to work on ourselves. Um, so consent basically means that we always understand in any exchange that there's a
Hmm.
giver and a receiver,
Hmm.
and that there's a doer
Hmm.
and there's a participant, and that
Hmm.
something is being given and something is being taken.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But it's not always the same direction. It's not always the doer doing the giving. Sometimes the doer is doing the taking.
Hmm.
And there's four different ways of engaging. There's, may I do this? Will you do something for me? This is a complex thing, and it
Hmm.
means you have to understand yourself.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
What is initiation really? It's really just understanding how you fit into the world and how you can contribute to the world, what you can take from it
True. Hmm.
and what you can give to it.
Give
And
back.
so often our question is, yeah, but how do I get my cup filled? Why is the world not a gift to me?
Hmm.
And it's the only reason you're struggling with it is because you're failing to understand that maybe your source of unhappiness or discomfort is because you're not realizing that you actually came here to be a gift to the world,
Yeah.
and that the system that you're caught in isn't allowing you to do that, giving you the
Yeah.
permission, all the rest of it. So
Hmm.
we're not here to be gurus, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know, when you were talking about all of this, Rocco, this reminded me. I do not remember the name of the therapist whose quote I read, but this relates. I know this relates with your one on one practice, and this relates to my one on one practice too with clients. She said there comes a moment, invariably, with every single client who's taking up therapy sessions with her. And she says, that's the moment when I realize that now this person will be cured, quote unquote cured. And that moment is when they start to assume responsibility for themselves,
Okay,
away
yeah,
from
self
blame, away
accountability.
from
Yeah.
everything else, right?
Yes.
And that's it.
Yeah,
That's
and
the how.
that's got to do with when you stop making excuses, when
Hmm.
you stop giving reasons for why it's not possible,
Yeah.
for why you're a victim of a certain circumstance or why you're helpless. And the
Hmm.
example I often give to people
Hmm.
is I say, choose someone that you care about that's not you. Now, for some
Mm.
time, that's a
Mm.
nephew or a niece or a
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
friend
Yeah.
or a child. And I say, imagine that you are out on a country drive
Mm.
and they are stuck in the car. The car's locked and they're asleep.
Mm. Mm.
And the water is rising and the car's going to get swept away and they're going to die.
Mm.
And there's
Mm.
no
Mm.
sticks and no rocks. All you have to do is you have your elbow or your fists or something to try and break the glass, very tough glass,
Mm.
to
Mm.
try and rescue this person and get them out. What
Mm.
do you do? Now, I ask that to every single client and person I'm mentoring because the quality of their answer tells me exactly whether I can help them or not. And there's certain people that just go, ah, I'll just do whatever it takes. Like there's
Mm.
no question for them that they will break that glass. And I said,
Mm.
but what happens if breaking the glass shatters your elbow?
Mm.
You know, and then sometimes I say, but what happens if for 7 years after this you have to go to surgery and medical therapy to treat and your elbow never gets better?
Mm.
Is there a time that comes where you resent having done that or regret having done that? And they go, no.
Mm.
That person can cross the bridge.
Mm.
I call it crossing the bridge and climbing the mountain.
Mm.
Getting better, being your own leader, getting yourself actualized or healed or whatever the case might be, we can call climbing the mountain. And some people look at the mountain and they go, I don't know how to climb that, so I'm not going to try. You're not supposed to know how to climb that. The whole point of it being a mountain, metaphorically, is because it's
Mm.
hard.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
But when you cross the bridge, you are crossing that bridge to say, I'm crossing that bridge to begin my journey of climbing the mountain. It's agile. I'm going to
Mm.
figure out a way. I don't care how I do it, but I have to get up that mountain.
Mm.
And the easiest way I can be my own best friend in that project is by stop worrying about what's so hard and what's impossible and just becoming connected to the curiosity of what it'll take to get there. What will it
Mm.
take to get there? Is there a way?
Mm.
And I'm not going to find that way while I'm hiding behind my stories and my excuses, right? So I'd love to ask the audience
Mm.
if they're listening to us. You know, it's very easy and abstract to say what we're looking for is people who want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. The solution, there's only one solution here, and that's self ownership, self
Mm.
leadership, self actualization, becoming a version of you that you're really, that you find great meaning in your life.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's going to be a hard journey. Are you committed to crossing the bridge and to climbing the mountain? Because if you're committed to climbing the mountain, the first thing you do as a serious product owner of your own becoming is you stop worrying about how it's going to happen and you start making room for the possibility that it's possible. Or you give 110% effort to the trying of it. And that doesn't mean you burn yourself out trying to do it. It means if you seriously want to climb that mountain, you're going to have to start normalizing rest. You're going to have to start normalizing shifts of perspective, challenging your own self and your story, managing your own healing journey, leveling up your understanding. These things are all necessary. If that
Mm.
mountain is going to get climbed, it's not going to be the piss and vinegar of like getting it all done in a day and making just one big powerful choice. That's a child's idea.
Yeah.
An adult's idea of climbing that mountain is preparing yourself, becoming a mountain climber,
Mm.
building resilience and endurance and skills to be able to safely make that ascent. And it's not as if you go to the top and you plant a flag and boom, it's all done. That's not conquering a mountain. Conquering a mountain is always about conquering yourself. Yeah. So who's ready to make that kind of commitment?
Mm.
I mean, we can only work with people like that. Now, even if you're just curious about that kind of journey and that
Mm.
kind of commitment and you're still uncertain and you need more help, then participate, ask questions, get engaged, be vulnerable, say where you're stuck and what you're struggling with,
Yeah. Yeah.
and let's take it from there. But
And that's so important, Rocco. You know,
yeah,
one of the things, I don't think there's much to add to what you've already added, to what you've already
yeah,
said. But one
yeah,
of the most important things I find is there are people who just say things, and then there are people who ask questions. And if you can be one of these people who ask questions, who can be vulnerable with the toughest questions that they can come up with, and make us vulnerable too, because we will not always know the answers. Who knows all the answers ever,
Well,
right?
if anybody pretends to know all the answers, don't follow them. Yeah.
Exactly, run away from them, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
But then that should not make you people who give out statements, millions of reasons as to why something better cannot happen. Become curious, become vulnerable, and start to ask questions. And
Mm.
let's say two of the questions that Rocco you always keep asking me to sit with, right? How can I help? How can I help in a better project? And
Even
is
my
my
own
help
wellness. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in my own? I mean, yeah, you can keep extending the idea, but yes, how can I help? And is my help helping? Right?
Yeah.
Such important questions to sit with, because we started with a human project, with the human project. Taking back the internet is a human project. It's not uh, an individual self's project. But then we also moved into crossing the bridge and climbing the mountain of your own actualization. They're both interlinked, of course they are.
Completely related.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Mm.
100%. Man, look, and the thing that we can hope is that we hope that we're connecting with people. We hope that if you're
Yeah.
listening to this, that you're resonating with this. Because so often when Chetan and I get on a video and we switch the camera on, we're talking to each other. We really
Mm.
are talking to each other.
Mm. Mm.
And Chetan's probably more mindful than I am. He says, like, okay, so now how do I bring this down to earth for people that are listening? Because we speak to each other often, and in that we develop a shorthand. We already
Mm.
know certain language and models, and I just say a word that you might think just means a word, but Chetan and I know that this means a whole context of meaning that we
Mm.
import immediately, and it rings a bell, and then we move on, and people will listen at a surface level and go, what the heck are these two clowns talking about?
Mm.
We don't want to talk at that level in these conversations, in these weekly lives. We want to
Yeah.
talk to our ideal community,
Mm. Mm.
and we
Mm.
want to actualize and realize that community, and that can only
Mm.
be made up of people who resonate with this understanding.
Mm.
But we can't guess what kind of questions are useful or helpful or necessary. That has to come. That has to come from yourselves.
Mm.
So what question did we begin with? It was the what are we talking about today, and
Mm.
then it was the
How?
why and the how.
Yeah. Why do we want to take back the internet, and how can we take back the internet?
Yeah. Now I think the how is. I've been thinking about this for a while. Ideally, what we'd like to do is run a workshop or a webinar or a course, something
Mm.
that's a little bit more structured that actually gives you tips, because there's a lot of stuff here. The one is digital decluttering,
Mm.
the other one is digital fasting. It's
Yeah.
separating yourself away from the medium. Digital decluttering is removing yourself from groups, feeds, pages, actually cleaning up your email inbox, your phone,
Yeah.
all the apps that you have. You don't need to be on all of them.
Yeah.
You don't still, after 10 years, need to be following or subscribe to the YouTube channels that you're subscribed to. But this is informing the noise.
Mm.
There's this add-on that Chetan had for YouTube that lets you. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
It's.
I'll switch over to you in a second.
Mm.
But
Mm.
there's a lot of things you can do. A lot of it's got to do with the way that you engage. I've got that. I think it's like a 10-step advice
Mm.
that I posted on
Mm.
Substack to say, if
Mm.
you are triggered by a
Oh,
piece of
yeah.
news, don't
Mm.
respond, give it some space, ask
Mm.
yourself, does the world really need to hear my opinion? Now, there's all of these things that we want to share that we can't cram into a live chat.
Mm.
But if they are an interested audience, you need to, first of all, join us on the Substack. Let me just share that now quickly.
Yeah.
So that should be appearing on your screen now. A better way Substack, a better
A
way
bit of it
now
now. Yeah.
substack.com. That's where we're going to be doing our posts and our long form writing,
Yeah.
and be doing some of our community engagement.
Yeah.
If you want to get involved, go there, go register. It's free. We do want people to financially support us, but the participation will be free when you just
Mm.
arrive, and we'll be talking about what we can do in the future
Mm.
for
And I'll
running an
just
actual course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll just add something.
Yes,
I know a lot of people are not on Substack right now, but this subscribing to this Substack is really platform agnostic, because the moment you hit that subscribe button, every single post that we share will reach your inbox directly. So it's
that's
not
right.
that you have to have a Substack app or
That's
have to
right.
be active on Substack, right?
That's right.
Just be active on your email and you'll receive everything that we're talking about.
But if you want to
Yeah.
engage with us, though, We've
Hmm.
chosen Substack because it's probably the better of a pretty bad bunch.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's a
kind
cleaner
of
one.
insulated. It
Hmm.
doesn't really, it's not infected with all of the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the
Hmm.
threads and Twitters and all the rest of it. But at least there we can have chat threads, we
Hmm.
can share notes, we can share announcements and things. So you don't have to
Hmm.
be a Substack subscriber, but it will be handy if you were. Now,
That's correct. Yeah.
the point was we want to have something tangible that you can actually start, uh, follow,
Hmm.
like a course or a workshop, and then come back to as a
Hmm.
reminder, so that how you can insulate yourself, grow your agency, practice hygiene in the way that you handle social media, etc. Now, one of those examples I'm going to throw back to you, Chetan, was
Hmm.
that add-on.
Oh yeah.
You got a
Untrap.
video for that, right?
Yeah, I have a video for that. In fact, I'll just link it down below in the description and the comment section too.
Right.
But the overarching idea is that you can take back control of your own YouTube feed. And the principles apply to every single social media out there, at least on the websites. The apps, you can also control how much time you spend there, what kind of time you spend there, because there's always the option of clicking the three dots and marking not interested.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's everything, all of that together is in that extension too, which is available for free, of course. And we don't want to be telling you what to do with that. I mean, I have listed down a bunch of things in the video, but
That's
all
it.
we really want to do is go through that extension. There are 200 plus settings, but you can pick out the ones that you think matter to you, that you think the ones will cater to your sanity, and
Yeah,
apply
yeah,
them. That's it.
yeah.
That's all there
But
is to
this
it.
whole course that we want to provide, Taking Back the Internet,
Hmm.
isn't again telling you what to watch or what to consume. It's
Exactly.
telling you how to curate your experience,
Yeah.
both your personal behavior and the behavior of the algorithm and the apps, so that
Hmm.
you can get the kind of experience that you value more as a human being, so that you can live your life by design, not by default. So that one area of your life that plays a massive part in your life and your conscious experience
Hmm.
and your
Hmm.
wellness, your mental
Hmm.
health, all of this, one area you can start clawing back your sense of humanness, your sense of agency, your sense of I'm actually in control of my own determination here.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll add something there, Rocco. Something, somewhat of a stickling point that came out to me was that if you're taking back control of the way you consume content on the internet, and you still feel like shit, you still feel agitated, perhaps it's time to understand that you're not following better people. That could be a signal for you that it's time to unsubscribe even further and take back better control of your life, because we are in echo chambers because of the algorithms. Of course, we all are.
Mm.
But then if you have turned off the recommendations and you're still in an echo chamber of your own making now,
Yeah.
right? You still feel agitated. You have to realize that that is your own doing now, and you have to take back control even further. Unsubscribe those. I don't want to name people, but unsubscribe those people, those magpies, those leeches, etc. Yeah, go on.
And uh, the lich, not a
The
leech,
lich. Yeah.
lich.
Mm.
And also, if you're still feeling unwell, you also have to um, factor in that quote from JK, which says, it's no
Oh,
measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society.
yeah. Yeah.
It's no
Yeah.
measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick environment. And
Mm.
our commons are profoundly sick. But, I had that project called The Murmuration, which is really
Mm.
let's take back the internet.
Yeah.
It's to say we don't have to. I went walking in Ireland once on a walking
Mm.
tour, and there was
Mm.
a man called Patrick McCormick. He was a local farmer. He was an older gentleman, and
Mm.
he had been involved in his younger years in a bit of environmental activism. He had become very unpopular by stopping development in a place of a sacred land in Ireland because the developers wanted to build a information center, and everything about it was wrong. It was
Mm.
catering to this left brain reductionist consumer capitalist kind of thing in such a beautiful sacred space.
Mm.
And local people who were poor, who wanted the jobs and wanted the work, were annoyed at him for trying to stop it because they perceived that him trying to do the right thing was against their opportunity to um, get
Mm.
get money. And he fought it all the way to the Supreme Court, and then eventually um, they they went onto national television, and they were on the edge of being very unpopular because of what they were doing, because they were seen as like idealists or socialists or something.
Mm. 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 Mm.
And eventually somebody said it's not that they wanted to build an information center, it's where they wanted to build it. The thing that you're aiming to promote and care about, you were doing it in such a way, in such a place that was exactly going to harm the thing that you were trying to promote.
Mm.
And then everyone could get on their side, and they actually won that. But when he took us for a walk, I noticed, in Ireland they have these little stone walls
Mm.
that are packed in a certain way, and they mean a human being can come if he knows what he's doing, and it can dismantle the wall, and we all 20, 30 of us walked through it, and then he quickly put it back together again. And he said, year on year, these walls are moving around. People rebuild them in different places for different locations. They meant to keep sheep in and to keep sheep out, but
Mm.
they meant for humans to be able to move around and to change the configuration and landscape. And also where we were walking, there were lots of holes,
Mm.
and some of those holes were very deep, that a lamb could get their leg stuck in it and break it, or a human being, actually, if you're hiking, you could slip one foot right down there and you
Oh.
will hurt yourself quite badly. So whenever you find a hole,
Mm.
you find a loose stone and you put it inside there. And I learned a wisdom there. He
Mm.
didn't just tear walls down, and he didn't just build walls to
Mm.
block movement. He
Mm.
did that in a very deliberate way. And the message I learned was, you don't have to fix all the holes in the world.
Mm.
And you don't have to mend all the walls in the world. Walls
Mm.
are
Mm.
important too, good boundaries.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
boundaries make good neighbors. This is how we practice consent, yeah?
Mm.
You don't have to fix all the walls that you find broken. You don't have to fix all the holes, mend all the holes. You just have to address the ones that you encounter on your journey. On your journey. And
That's it.
the argument against, you can't fix all the holes in the world, is not an intelligent, mature argument, because no one's asking you or suggesting that we go about fixing
Fixing
all the
all.
holes in the world. We can't fix the whole internet, but
Mm.
we can start by fixing the holes
Yeah.
of the places that we are crossing and encountering.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can change how we show up on those
Mm.
journeys, the
Mm.
footprints that we leave.
Mm. Mm.
So I think that's relevant as well.
Yes, Rocco. And what a beautiful note to end this on, man. I mean,
Yes, that's it.
The JK quote of understanding that it's not always you if you're feeling unhealthy in a sick environment.
Mm.
It is also the environment that is sick. And then taking that on and
You don't
assuming
have to fix the
responsibility.
whole environment. Yeah,
Exactly, right? But
yeah,
taking responsibility of what is around you and what you can fix. Because all
that's
of
it.
us are so powerful. Like where you started, the followers, the middle of the pyramid, is the most powerful block of people in that entire pyramid. And
Correct,
that's such a profound realization, man. Like
correct.
we're all there. Like you also mentioned, you're not just a single you're not just
Yes,
at a single level. You're all at all levels in
yes.
some sense, right?
Now,
And then yeah.
that pyramid,
Mm.
the more people that behave differently,
Mm.
the more momentum moves up towards the human cause,
Yeah. Yeah.
which means you might be one in 6 billion people right now.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
But, you know, it takes individuals to make a movement.
It starts with individuals, of
And
course.
those starlings, those birds that you see moving around in the sky like that, right? It's
Yeah.
called a murmuration.
Yeah.
And they are not working out a choreographed dance between them.
Mm.
They just have a simple heuristic. Just fix the hole in front of me, just mend the wall on my path, just that. Just don't go too
Yeah.
far away from my friends,
Yeah.
and don't bump into my friends around me. And all it takes is 10 birds in that 10,000 who decide to move in a certain way, and the 100 around them will just move,
Yeah.
and the 1,000 around them will just move. And a very small, committed handful of conscious people with good intent can change the world in this way. They
That's it.
can. You can. That's how human movement works. We are still humans. We still have herd mentality. We still
Mm.
have tribe mentality. And if some certain people move in a certain way with a certain intentionality, You are
The tribe
showing the
can
ones
follow.
around you that have never seen something new. People love novelty and they go, "What is this?" I stand for something greater. I'm pledged to taking back the internet with a better way. Whatever it is, create a scene, create a hashtag, create a movement, be part of that movement. You can. You can change the world by joining together just a handful of people that think and behave and are pledged to show up like you. You can.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Rocco. I don't think we should add anything else. Let's just pause there.
I think we're
This
done.
has been a beautiful live, and I'm sure the curious people are listening, or are the ones who are ready, the ones who are willing, are coming here, Rocco. They are.
I
I
hope they
know they are.
find us.
Yeah.
I hope we
Yeah.
find them. I hope we reach each other in the dark. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Okay, man.
That's all. Thank you,
Chetan,
Rocco.
that's brilliant. We
Thank
do
you.
this again this time next week, yeah?
Yes. Yes,
Or
for sure.
maybe a bit later. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay,
We'll
we'll
publish
see.
the timeline. In fact, that's a promise that we can keep with our community. That
Yeah.
we publish beforehand so that people can also put in the questions if they want to, and we can take that up in the live sessions too. Right?
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
I'll follow your cue on that. Okay, man.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you,
Brilliant.
everyone, for joining. Bye bye.
Cheers, everyone. Take care.
Bye.